Hey guys, it's Craig from Wright and Sons Knives again. We're out here in the backyard on this beautiful February day that God has given us. It's about 45 degrees here in southwestern Pennsylvania. I'm out here to put together an Amish table organizing box that I saw something very similar to this over in Sugar Creek, Ohio, not far from where we live. I thought I'd make my wife one of these for Valentine's Day. It's coming up in a week or two. So we're about to make some cuts. I have my plans all drawn up on paper, just a rough draft, and I'll show you that in just a minute, and appreciate tuning in. Thanks. So here are the plans that I have roughly drawn here on paper for this Amish table organizing box. If you look at the very bottom corner there, that'll give you some rough idea of what this thing is going to look like when it's assembled. Just a little wooden box, kind of resembles an old-fashioned toolbox that carpenter would have carried back in the day, just with the wooden bottom tray, basically, with the ends that come up with a wooden dial that goes across kind of for a handle. If you look right above that, you'll see a side view and then an end view of what this thing is going to kind of look like. But I've kind of roughly drawn out, like, label things. See, as the bottom panel there is going to be letter A, and you can see the measurements 13.5 by 7.25. 7.25 being the actual dimensional width of the 1x pine material that I'm using. So just trying to keep things simple here, but you can kind of get an idea of what I'm building there by looking at that picture. Let's get some cuts made. So here I am preparing to make my first cut. I've got the tape measure laid out on the board, and my first cut for the bottom panel is going to be 13.5 inches. So we're just simply going to make a mark at 13.5 inches. I always leave a little tail indicating which side of that line I want to cut on. That way I get the proper width and length of that board. So I have the saw set up. I have it clamped down onto my workhorses so it doesn't move around when I make these cuts. So I set the board in, drew the line with the square, and set the board up on the saw. And you can see how the blade is set up to cut just to the side of my line. I am using the extra hand or third hand or whatever you want to call it on the saw feature that holds the board in place, so I can make these consistent cuts on this board. And lastly, one thing I do always recommend that you do is to use hearing protection when you're running a saw or anything that's loud like this. Protect those ears. You only get one set, guys. Okay, we're making our first cut here. Nice and slow. Alright guys, so I went ahead and made all of my cuts for this project. You see that stack of lumber there. Those are all my cuts. The bottom panel, which is letter A. The two sides, which would be B1 and B2, the two end are C1 and C2. I've also gone ahead and cut the blanks for D1. There'll be one of those on each end. That's what's going to hold the dial in place, as you see in the completed picture. So what I need to do now is go ahead and get this shape figured out. I'm going to try to freehand that. What I'll do is I'll take a piece of paper, make it 10 inches long. I'll go ahead and fold that down the middle lengthwise, kind of like you'd make a construction paper heart. I'll go ahead and fold that down the middle, and I'll freehand draw a couple different variations of shape, see which one I like the best. But you're going to kind of have that approximate shape to it. Then the dowel will go across from the top of each of those D1s, as you see there. So we'll see how that comes out. I have a bandsaw in the shop. I'll go ahead and cut those when I get happy with the shape that I want, and I'll get back to you. Okay, I'm in the workshop now, and I went ahead and did my drawing on my construction paper. Got the idea of the shape I wanted for the ends of the Amish table storage box, and then I went ahead and transferred it onto the wood. We're going to go ahead and get cut it on the bandsaw. So I got both ends cut for the box. These will be what holds the dowel rod in place as the carry handle on the Amish table storage box. So my two oldest sons came home from school just as I was preparing to cut these, and my 15-year-old said, "What are you doing, making old-fashioned toolbox?" So I showed him a picture of what I was making, and he simply said, "Cool." So here they are, both pieces. Here's the bandsaw that I cut pieces with. I got some sanding to do, and then some assembly. Okay, I'm drilling the holes for the dowel rods in the end pieces, and I'm using a Forstner bit. The bit is designed in such a way that you can drill in this case, a 1-inch hole into the board, and if you do it properly, you can get a controlled depth. You see here I've drilled into the first board, and not drilling through, of course, but having controlled depth. I am using the depth gauge on my drill press, and have the Forstner bit chucked into the drill press, aligning it with the mark in the wood, and then drilling to my proper depth so I can inset the handle into the end piece on this Amish table organizer. So I did quickly want to just do a very mild product review on the Ryobi Forstner bit set that I just purchased to complete this project. This is actually my first Forstner bit set that I've actually had. But I do want to point out something. It does say on the corner of their packaging that your target mark will be viewable at 700 RPMs. And I do want to show you what they mean by that. So I have the drill press set up. If you look closer, you can see my mark underneath the drill bit. And I always do a rough alignment, of course, with the drill bit not on. You can get a better view there. So you can see how I have it aligned. I do want to show you though what they mean by that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the drill press. And I want you to take note of how you can actually still see that mark as I bring the drill bit down in alignment with that mark. There it is. The drill bit is just at the very edge of the wood, just touching. You can still see that mark. Still see it. And then the drill bit itself will begin to cut in. And of course, what I did on this project was go ahead and then I watched my depth gauge, and I just ran that bit in slowly, nice and steady. In this case, I stopped at that line marked 40. Then back the bit back out. Shut off the drill press. And nice clean cut, proper depth without going through the back of the board. But very interesting. The Ryobi Forstner bit set works exactly as they advertise it. Here we are doing the assembly process on the Amish table organizer, and I've got my bottom board laid out and the two end pieces in position. I have the clamps laid there ready to clamp that and hold it in position, so then I can use the handy dandy brad nailer and nail them into place. You see my other pieces over here and here to complete the process. So we're going to go ahead and get this bottom box assembled and come back to you. So the brad nailers worked perfectly for the assembly of the box. See where the brads have been driven in. Make a nice sub-assembly here. So next up I will put in size of the two side pieces. I'll lay those in there and then get a measurement for the dowel rod to go across. lay those in there like that. And what I'll do is measure, get the approximate depth of the hole, and then measure from surface to surface here. From that surface to this surface, and then add the depth of each hole onto that length to get my overall length for the dowel. I'll install the dowel before I nail these end boards in here. That way the dowel will be in place. So here we are with the completed project, Amish table organizing basket. Turned out pretty nice. Put like an antique looking black finish on it. And my wife really likes it. So there you have it, the final project of the antique black Amish table organizer. Swing around so you can see the end there. Alright, I appreciate you watching.